Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. I'm your host, Shane McInnes, guy with lots of fancy, expensive pieces of paper that tell people that I know what I'm talking about. Or do they? Who knows? Welcome, everybody. That music cue was hit perfectly, and I didn't even plan it. Not even planned in the least. Hello, everybody. How's it going, Fid? Let me see. Oh, Glitch Bob, welcome, and thanks for the subscription. That hit in the pre-run. So, did the music play, or did the I Am Spartacus play? Did you get your proper send off? Did anybody hear I Am Spartacus? We've got some German speakers in the room tonight. Welcome, David Peterson. There were no sub sounds. Oh, well, we must fix that. I don't think that I have the alert box set up to run while the sort of coming soon thing is. So we must honor Glitch Bob's subscription with Twitch Prime. I'm pretty sure that everybody in the room is aware, but I'll throw this up just in case. If you are a Amazon Prime subscriber, you get a free subscription that you can use on Twitch for anybody that you want. And all you need to do is click the little link right there and link your account, your Amazon Prime account, to Twitch, and then you can make this little thing sound. So this isn't going to say Glitch Bob, but Glitch Bob, this one's for you, man. Assuming that it works. There we go. I am Spartacus. Adventure time. No, I am Spartacus. Click the link in the doobly-doo. I am Spartacus. Yo soy Spartacus. For the Spanish language speakers. Hope everybody's doing all right. Welcome. Happy Thursday. It's been a sort of a dreary, muggy day here in South Mississippi. Also, let me see, make sure I'm catching up with everything. Hey, JemBob422. Now we've got Glitch Bob and Gem Bob. Now we need Joe Bob and Billy Bob, and we'll have like all sorts of Bobs. Does anybody else remember the Pepsi commercial with a Spartacus? Yeah. We're aging ourselves there, KP. Oh yeah. So yeah, it's rained for most of the day here. It has made me very sleepy. I didn't sleep so great last night or the night before. It's just been a not good sleeping week. There's been a lot of stuff going on. It's been weighing on me pretty heavy. Yeah, I kind of don't pretend that I'm getting old either. It's just not worth it. My hair is giving me away. So there's nothing you can do sometimes but just embrace the reality that things are happening, right? When I grew up, we didn't have electricity and we ate mud. Hey, Vanities, welcome back. welcome. All right. The spill, as always, is that this is a channel and a show for people to come and interact with history in a way that is fun, not stuffy, definitely not Professor Binns from Harry Potter, in a place where we can talk about stuff, interact with each other. I do have hair. Yeah, that's true. Hopefully I'll keep that for a long time. The men in my family don't tend to go bald, but we will see. Genetics is a cruel mistress sometimes, right? So the spiel as it goes. Again, I'm Shane McInnes. Welcome to the show. You can send me an email right here, mcInnesTravels@gmail.com, with anything that would interest you or me, or just feedback, things that you'd like to see, things that you'd like to know. Unfortunately, you know my father, so Oh man, yeah. But your father owns it, so you can also follow me on social media right here. Arcadian, you are not late. No, 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 you are not late. We're doing the spill at the beginning. So Tuesdays are at 6, Thursdays are at 7. I don't know why I did them at different times. Initially, I was just trying to do a little bit of a spread and see which one had better attendance. And it turns out that they both sort of have the same level of attendance. I didn't know if the 7 o'clock time slot here in Central Standard was better or worse than the 6 o'clock time spot. So it just kind of stuck. So I hold on to it mostly so that I don't have to go in and change my schedule on Twitch. That's probably laziness on my part, but it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. So there's that. You're an architect? Oh, hey, close enough. You are what George Costanza always wanted to be. Have you seen the new addition to the Guggenheim? I hope there's somebody out there. I know there are at least two people. Do an impression. Homer. See, I'm so bad at The Simpsons. I know he says dough, and that's kind of his thing, but that's really easy to do, so I don't even really know what I would say to be Homer. Let's see. Man, this is really showing my lack of Simpsons knowledge. This is a problem for future Shane. What is that? I honestly am so bad at The Simpsons. I'll just do the dough. I don't know if that worked for you or not. I don't know what it is about The Simpsons. It just never really. It never really got me. Random history fact about the Sumerians. They have nothing to do with Conan. So the actual Sumerians, as the Sumerians that you would think Sumerians are actually based on a group of people that sort of hung around over in this Black Sea coastal region. So the Sumerians are kind of one of these short-lived migratory groups of people, and they're kind of over here in this Black Sea coastal region. Lots of people move through this area. This region right here is very ethnically diverse in the ancient world. You have people coming mostly from the steppes up here of Central Asia, moving down into Central and Southern Europe. And they all tend to come through this region right here, which is kind of interesting. You do see some sort of bigger... Hey, Cryomera! Dun 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 dun! Dun 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 dun! For those of you that are not familiar, how have I not done this yet? I don't know. Anyway, for those of you that are not familiar, Cryomera is a very talented artist, does lots of traditional pen and ink work, but also does some really neat stuff with carving, linoleum, stamping stuff to make both stickers and t-shirts. Super interesting stuff, very chill stream, good taste in music, genuinely nice person. Go give Cryomera a follow, spread the love. Absolutely endorse. 2 thumbs up. Very happy, good stuff. So as always, our topic for the night is history, and as also always, our title for the night is some sort of really bad pun. And that pun is some empire that I used to know. So I hope that song is now playing in your head. But it's oddly appropriate because the topic that we're covering tonight is all about collapsing and breaking up with each other and and how things fall apart. So this is sort of a culmination of a lot of the things that we've been talking about in the last streams. But for those of you that haven't caught up in the past, don't worry. If you want to go back and watch VODs, you are welcome to do so. All of my episodes, by the way, are self-contained, so you don't have to watch the stuff before or after to get the gist. And what we're talking about is the Bronze Age. The Bronze Age is a pretty long period of time, a couple thousand years worth of history, starting back around the 2500s BC and running all the way up through about the 1000s BC. And at the height of the Bronze Age, we've got all this really cool stuff going on. We've got lots of big empires.
Friends.
Romans. Countrymen. Lend me your ears. Come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Oh no, don't apologize. Thanks for the host. I appreciate it. You are letting other people... It's a bit of a pun there too, because you're lending me your ear. You get the bad pun. I'm so bad with the puns. Always with the bad puns. But this is what can happen when you loosen up and don't act like a giant 85-year-old white dude that's had a doctorate from Cambridge and talks to you like this about history. Oh yeah, the adventure hats. I'm actually going to start working on some new emotes. I am going to try to do a push in probably a few weeks to try to get us up to that second level to unlock another emote. But that's for another day. Good things are in store, though. Things are moving in the right direction. I'm working on a lot of stuff. For those of you that don't know, I'm working on another degree because I, for some reason, have this giant, horrible urge to just beat myself with intelligence and torture myself by writing papers. Yeah. So that's been pretty rough the last couple of weeks. Lots of work kind of coming out of the yin-yang. And I have to buff ahead of stuff so that I can go do things. I'm probably going to go have a field adventure tomorrow with KP and my wife. There's a World War II prison of war camp that's at the end of a pretty long hike. We're going to try to see if we can get out there and take some pictures of it that I can maybe use when we cover topics about World War II. So there we go. When the Bronze Age was depends on where you were in the history you were talking about, though. Yeah, in various parts of the world, you're going to have different Bronze Ages. This is accurate. So for Europe and Asia and Northern Africa, the Bronze Age is pretty much going to be around the same time. So if we're looking at Bronze Age India, for example, your Bronze Age India is going to be somewhere about the 2500 BC range until about 1500 BC. If you go over to China, you're going to have Bronze Age China that stretches from about 2300 BC until about 1200. About 1100 BC, because then you have this big war between the Xia or the Shang dynasty and the Zhou dynasty, and there's a lot of iron involved in that. But if we're looking at New World stuff, yeah, so you get over to the New World and you're looking at New World Bronze Age. Those are mostly going to be in the AD time period, but that's because it takes a long time for human beings to walk from Africa to the New World, right? So if we're talking about places today like the Near East, places like modern-day Turkey and Iran. That place has human beings living there about 80,000 BC. If you're talking about places like Mexico and Guatemala and Belize, there aren't human beings living there till maybe about 18,000 BC. So people in the New World are about 60,000 years behind, but they actually ramp up really, really fast. Hey, Daria. Welcome. Daria Axanova, also another very talented artist. If you haven't followed her, given her some love, go do so. Hey, Joey. I don't think I said hello. Apologize. I'm getting a little bit... We've got kind of art corner of Twitch royalty with us tonight, guys. I really do appreciate everybody showing up, though. So let's kind of get into it. All right, so if we're talking about the height of the Bronze Age, what we're looking at is a period of time from about 1350 BC until about 1200 BC. So for about 150 years, the world of the Bronze Age in the Near East is going to be absolutely amazing. You're going to have all of these big empires. We've got the Hittite Empire, which is up here in Turkey. We've got the Mitanni Empire, which is in what is modern-day Syria. We've got the Babylonians and the Assyrians over here in Mesopotamia. And of course, we've got the big old new kingdom, Egypt Empire. And then, of course, we have the Minoans and the Mycenaeans over here in Greek. So, did he just call, or I called everybody royalty. Everybody here is a cool person. Otherwise, I would ban you. Well, I would give you a little bit of a heads up, like, hey, stop being a jerk. And then probably KP would ban you. He's really itchy to use that ban hammer. But no, everybody's cool and chill. I'm very glad that I have a Twitch family. You guys have made this whole not being able to go out and do things a lot better, and I really do appreciate that. So, not to get mushy, but there we go. So, if we're looking at these big old empires, we have lots of trade going around, and historically speaking, if you do a lot of research about this, you start running into this term called the Club of Great Powers. And this is a group of empires, the Hittite Empire, Mitanni, Egypt, Assyria, and Babylon. And these big empires all strike this very weird, perfect balance of weird alliances and trade agreements and all sorts of moving around of stuff. What's really interesting about this period of time is that we actually have a lot of letters that were written back and forth between the rulers of these big empires. And these letters all sort of end up having kind of a standardized form, right? So you'll see this stuff where it's like, let's say I'm the Pharaoh of Egypt and I'm writing to you, the royalty of the Hittite Empire. You see this letter and you get this letter, and of course it's written in cuneiform, and the language that was being used around that time depended on which area you were, right? But you get these clay tablets, they've got writing on them, and they all sort of start off this way, and it starts off with, I greet my brother, the emperor of so-and-so, and my servants bow down to you, and I know your servants bow down to me, because we're brothers. And then it's all about like, let me give you a gift. I have sent this cool thing from my country. I just want to check in on my brother and see how my brother's doing, right? And then the letter that would return would be very similar. Like, hey man, I got your gift. That was super cool. Let me give you another one back. And you had these emperors writing letters to each other in what, in a very weird way, is sort of like the modern United Nations, where you would even exchange ambassadors. You would go to like the capital city of Mitanni, which was a city called Washukani, and you would find ambassadors from the Assyrian Empire and the Hittite Empire, and these people had immense trade networks, and things were going really great. So much so that you started seeing people marry each other. You see some of these letters, especially letters between allies, like really, really close allies. Everybody was kind of friendly with each other, but some countries like Egypt and Mitanni were really close with each other. And you see these letters from Mitanni's like, hey, Egyptian Pharaoh, I know you're pretty cool, and I know that you've got a son who's looking for a wife, and I just happen to have a really hot sister. So I'm going to send my sister down. If you want to marry my sister to your son, that would be awesome. And now we have a super tight alliance. And this actually happens. That was actually a paraphrase of a letter between one of the emperors of Mitanni to the Pharaoh Amenhotep III of Egypt. So you have these people sending their kids around and were no, not verbatim. That was Shane's off-the-wall, goofy translation. It's much more formal, and it's like, with the gods in witness, I call upon the so-and-so god and the so-and-so god so that you... like, I don't actually know it verbatim. You can look it up, though. It is in a collection of documents called the Amarna letters. So if you go to Google and type in Amarna letters and add the tag full text, you can actually read all of these letters that were written back and forth to these emperors from 1350, 1400 BC. Super cool stuff. Really, really neat. But some of the countries start getting a little chafing at this. Most specifically, Egypt will never send daughters anywhere. Egypt will say stuff like, hey, if you want to send your daughter down here, that would be cool. And I could marry her to one of my sons, or maybe I will marry her myself if I'm the pharaoh. But I'm not going to send my daughter up to you. And some of the countries started feeling like maybe Egypt was getting a little big for its britches. And to be fair, it really was the most powerful of the big brother empires. It had the most money, it had the biggest population, it had the biggest army, and it could afford to be a little bit of a jerk. Because when you have humongous armies of 10,000 plus people bigger than the next biggest guy, you can afford to be a bit of a jerk and not send your daughters off to marry these other people. But the idea here is that for roughly 200 years or so, the Bronze Age world is super peaceful. Prosperity is all over the place. The quality of life for these people goes up immensely. There is all sorts of international trade. You see pharaohs in Egypt buried with stuff from all over the world in their tombs. And this only happens because of this perfect mix of alliance and friendship and brotherhood and love and exchange of kids and letters and gifts. But it doesn't last, right? We all know stuff. We all know that eventually everybody gets angry with somebody. And what's going to start this is actually the Empire of Mitanni. So if you'll remember, or if you are not familiar, Mitanni is an empire that was based in what is today the northern part of Iraq and over here in Syria, the sort of northern Mesopotamia region right here, right? Very big, very powerful, lots of money because of all the trade routes that ran through it. And they have this king, and his name is Tushratta, which I'm sure that you all now want to go name your child after, right? So Tushratta had made a deal with one of the Egyptian pharaohs, right? Don't get angry, get even. That's unfortunately what ends up happening, right? So Tushratta had sent his sister down to marry the pharaoh. And apparently there had been some deal made where the pharaoh was going to send a bunch of gold up as a bride price, right? And we start seeing these letters between Tushratta and the pharaoh, and it's like, hey man, where's my gold? You promised me a big old gold statue that was the size of a person and, you know, solid gold. And I sent you my wife, or I'm sorry, I sent you my sister to be your wife. So what's up with the gold? And then we get this kind of follow-up letter where it's like, I heard from your last letter that my sister is now pregnant with your son, and that's going to make my nephew your potential future pharaoh. So is it going to take him taking over for me to get that gold? And then the last letter is the next. Well, there are actually two more. The next letter goes, hey, I got that statue, and it's nice, and it's really pretty, and things kind of happened, unfortunately, and it melted. And I found out that it wasn't solid gold. And you told me that it was going to be solid gold, and I'm kind of hacked off that you tried to pass off something that wasn't solid gold as solid gold. And it'd be really nice if you would just back me up and give me the rest of my money because, you know, my sister. And then the last letter is like, I don't like you anymore. We're not friends. I'm taking my ball and going home, and you can take your stupid alliance and shove it. But this is very, very bad because this is actually going to start knocking down dominoes. My very hot sister. Yeah. What's actually crazy that you mentioned that. If you've ever heard of Nefertiti, the very beautiful pharaoh's wife of Egypt, she was married to this guy named Akhenaten. And there is a pretty decent theory that Nefertiti was actually Mitanni, from the kingdom of Mitanni. So she was one of the most beautiful people in the ancient world and probably somehow kin to Tushratta. So it wasn't the same person. The lady in question's name was Taduhepa, which I'm sure everybody really wants to know and is going to go Google Taduhepa to figure out who these people are. But I'm a giant history nerd. I know all the weird stuff so that you don't have to. Yeah, the famous bust of Nefertiti. Actually a real lady, wife of Akhenaten, potentially Hurrian by ethnic group, which would mean she's from the region of Mitanni. So here's the deal. Mitanni is needing this money mostly because the little states that it controls are starting to get antsy, right? So these big empires had around them, and usually between them as sort of buffer states, little vassal states, right? So these are kingdoms that you've gone in and you've beaten up and you've put your person on the throne, and they pay you a tribute, and they sort of do what you tell them to do. But they can also be bribed, they can be swayed. You have international espionage. You have people like sending in spies to whack your dude and put their dude on the throne. And a lot of this stuff around Mitanni is turning into a bit of a trouble for them. And that's actually why they needed the money, because they're trying to build this large army so that they can go beat up all of their vassals and sort of restore their control. And Egypt really isn't interested in helping them out. And the reason Egypt isn't interested is that if Mitanni shrinks, Egypt and Mitanni shared a border right in this region. And this would actually mean that Egypt would be able to get more stuff. So if Mitanni falls apart, this is good for Egypt. Now, of course, it was also good to keep the palace and keep everybody happy. But this is all going to get ruined when the Hittites figure out what's going on, right? Because all of these people are exchanging letters. Nobody is doing this stuff in the dark. And when the Hittites figure out, oh, dude, Mitanni is weak and Egypt isn't going to help them, it's time to pounce, right? So this is sort of the beginning of the end. And this happens right around, it happens under the rule of a Hittite guy named Shupalululiuma. Such a great name, Shupalululiuma. Everybody loves this stuff, right? That took way too long to come up with. So Shupalululiuma is an interesting guy. He's super powerful. Shupalululiuma, 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 Shupalululiuma. I study this stuff for a living. This is technically Shupalululiuma the first. Shupalululiuma the second is the guy that ends up screwing it all up. But that's about 145 years later, and we'll get there. Alright, so this is Shupalululiuma. This is a statue of him, perhaps being surprised on the toilet. That's always what I've considered this. This picture is of a statue that is in a archaeological museum in Turkey. He has seen things. Yeah. So he's a super powerful Hittite emperor. He is actually a very important figure. He's going to be the guy that figures out that it's time to attack Mitanni. And Mitanni's not really going to be able to hang on. The invasion from the Hittite army is going to take them pretty much completely broadside. So to make this a little bit more geographically make sense, the Hittites, again, are right here in what is modern-day Turkey, and the Mitanni are over here. So Mitanni had mostly been fighting with Assyria, which is over here in the northern part of Mesopotamia. So they had been hoping that the Hittites wouldn't get antsy because the Egyptians were right here to sort of back them up. But when the Egyptians aren't going to back them up, then the Hittites are like, right? And they take your butt out. And this is really going to start causing lots of trouble. They're going to start fomenting rebellion. And what happens is that Shupalululiuma is smart enough to recognize that if he can get all of these little vassal states to sort of gang up and just rebel against Mitanni, he won't have to send a Hittite army in until after all the fighting is done, right? So let all the peons do the fighting, and then when the pieces need to get picked up, then you send your army in and gobble them up and bring them into your empire. Brilliant tactical move here, right? So, what is it up? What is up? Shoop? That could have been another potential title. You make me want to shoop a Lululiuma. I do like old music. I know that Shoop isn't necessarily old, but if you start thinking about it, that song's almost 30 years old now. And I know that dates us, but such is life. So he starts fomenting this rebellion. All these vassals rebel against Mitanni. They fight with Mitanni. Tushratta is not able to really hang on very much, and the Hittites move in and gobble up a bunch of territory, especially big trade cities, because Mitanni was making most of its money off of trade and these big roads that ran through the region that connected places like Europe and Asia and Africa, and Shupalululium is going to take those over. And that's going to put Mitanni on the ropes, because when you lose all of your money and you're already broke to begin with, and you don't have your big ally of Egypt to sort of back you up anymore, you are ripe for the picking. And guess who does that picking? It's going to be the Assyrians, who were supposed to be brothers, right? We're all brothers, we're all buddies, until there's blood in the water, and then we all turn into brothers at the family reunion, and we're punching the junk out of each other and stealing all of the stuff and blaming it on the other people. Well, that's what ends up happening, right? So Assyria at the time is led by a guy named Ashur-uballit. I know that everybody's going to remember all these names too. It's perfectly fine if you don't. All you really need to know is that Assyria's got a big old powerful king of their own. And Assyria's going to look at Mitanni and go, I bet we could take him out. And Mitanni and Assyria had been at odds with each other for quite some time. And so Assyria is just going to decide, the Hittites have beaten them up, they're weak, they're broke. Hey Galanuva, how's it going? Welcome to the party. Welcome to the historical adventure. We're having a good time. We're talking about Assyria and a whole bunch of countries beating the junk out of each other after having such good times for so long. Systems collapse. It happens when you least expect it, right? So Ashur-uballit from Assyria goes over to the Hittite world and brings this big old army with him. And the guy that is the king of Mitanni at that time is a dude named Shadiwaza. I know. I've always joked that the last few of the Mitanni kings all have butt humor, like Tushratta and Shadiwaza. Well, this guy definitely Shadiwaza'd the bed, because he can't fight Assyria. He doesn't have an army. He doesn't have any money. His dad got whacked. Shadihuza? Shadiwaza? But thank you. You're welcome. I'll take all forms of bad puns, dad jokes, mom jokes, borderline uncomfortable jokes. These sound like Weird Al versions of Teenage Garage Band. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. For a very brief moment, I actually thought, I toyed around with the idea of writing an entire parody of Gaudier's, somebody that I used to know. And I had a couple of pretty good chorus parts, like, you didn't have to cut me off, foment rebellion amongst my vassals, and then kill my sister. Yeah. I love you guys. All right, so what is a Mitanni king to do when you've got Assyria breathing down your neck and you don't have an army? Well, this guy runs over to the Hittites and goes, look, I know we haven't been friends. You just beat the crap out of my dad. You took a lot of our territory. But check it. If Assyria defeats all of Mitanni, you're going to have to defeat Assyria next. And they don't like you. They're going to be right up on your border, and this isn't going to be fun. And the Hittites actually go, oh man, that's actually a pretty good point. So the Hittites give Shadiwaza an army, and they send Shupalululium's son off to sort of run the army, because they're not going to give this Mitanni dude an army. What they're going to do is basically use him as a guide. So the Hittites show up to Mitanni, and it turns out that the Assyrians have already beaten up the capital city, and they're starting to loot it. And Shupalululium's son looks kind of out at the plains of the city, and he goes, you guys are hosed. There's no way I'm fighting those guys. They're inside the city. Like, they have the city walls. We're not going to fight them. And Shadiwaza's like, well then, what happens to Mitanni? The Hittites go, what Mitanni? And they just steal all of the land. So Mitanni doesn't exist anymore. Oh, yeah. You guys the hoes. Well, unfortunately, one of the things that Assyria really loved to do, and I know this was a joke, or perhaps a misheard joke, but the crazy thing about the Assyrians is that they really did practice quite a bit of like psychological warfare, and they would kill every living male in a region, and then they would take all of the women back and sell them into slavery, where they might end up working as prostitutes. Have you ever had a dream that you had you? I don't think I have, and I don't know if I don't NRMZ. If that's a reference, I apologize for missing it. It has gone completely over my head. So, but no, I mean, if I could do anything, nobody wants to live in that world except for me. It's an old meme. I will check that out after the stream. If I Gunner 6661 channel. If you catch one of my streams another day, I'll play it out loud. Okay, cool. I will copy and paste that junk into a document, and I will check it out after the stream. NRMZ, thanks for the follow. So just to let everybody know, my computer that I'm using to stream off of is effectively clocked out and maxed out right now. If I run a YouTube video, it's quite possible that the entire setup would collapse, much like the end of the Bronze Age. I'm working on saving up stuff and building a better rig. All of this was kind of actually a last-minute thing. So for those of you that don't know, I teach college for a living. And when we switched to the whole you can't meet with your class anymore, I was like, I still want to meet with my class. So I actually started doing Twitch for my class, and then I was like, hey, this actually kind of is okay. So I'm doing it as a thing. So I don't really have a pro streamer setup or anything like that. I'm still using the junky webcam off of my laptop. I do have a very nice microphone, but that's because I do music stuff too. So there we go. Pro streamer. One day we'll all be pro streamer. So we just lost Mitanni. So one of the brothers is dead. What happens to the land of Mitanni? Well, the Egyptians didn't show up to help them like they were supposed to. Alas. So the Hittites and the Assyrians gobble up all of Mitanni, and then it's gone. Still waiting for you to drop your rap history album. Oh, man. I actually kind of do want to do a stream that's the history of rap. I think that would be super fascinating. And I will absolutely put that on the list. Don't forget that we do viewer requests. Not a history of rap, but history in rap. Oh, man. Vanity Falls keeps throwing the wallet at the screen, but nothing is happening. Respect for the gunpla. Yeah, I've got on this side, this is probably my favorite Gundam of all time. Good old Strike Freedom right here. Boom. And then on this side, I've got my second favorite Gundam of all time from Endless Waltz. Heavy Arms Custom. Troa with the weird face mask and lots of like bullet hell stuff. That just makes me happy on the inside. Love me some Gundams. I had to represent the full range of nerdiness, though. They've already got epic rap battles of history, so there we go. Shane streams some Gunpla someday. There's a new category for it. Oh, now you're putting the hooks in me and you're giving me excuses to buy expensive gunplay models. I do love me some models, though. You're a Zaku guy. Hey, man, nothing wrong with some Zaku. I like me some Zaku. The old school Gundam stuff is good, man. I love that junk. I'm so far behind, though. I've gotten into like new job and responsibility things and going back to school, and my free time to watch anime has crashed out. The last one that I really gave a lot of attention to was Iron-Blooded Orphans, and that's been years now. It was pretty good. Very talky, though. but very nice looking style. I watched a little bit of Unicorn when they put it on Netflix, but also very, very talky. I also tried to watch it at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't go to sleep, and I don't know if I actually caught anything that was going on. So, responsibility. Universal Age for life. I'm down. And we could totally talk about Gundams for the rest of the stream, too. But I think people maybe came here for a little bit of history. Okay, so here's the thing. With Mittani gone, we now have a new balance of power. So this is like if, like one of the world powers collapsed in World War II. So like imagine halfway through World War II if Russia was just like, boop, we're out. How much would the world have changed, and how would the whole thing have shifted and alliances done weird stuff? So with Mittani gone, now we only have 4 big empires. We have Babylon, Assyria, the Hittites, and the Egyptians. Come for the history, stay for the super nerdy Gundam banter. Absolutely. By the way, ladies and gents, Brittany McInnes is my wife. She is the smart one of the group. She's Dr. McInnes. I am only Master McInnes. And she made an appearance earlier in the week. We were talking about leprosy, and she came in and dropped some mad science knowledge about Mycobacterium leprae, which is the little bug that actually causes leprosy. Thank you for lessons last stream, Brittany. It was so good. I agree. So here's the thing. If we're looking at who has beef in the world right now, Assyria has really bad beef with Babylon. And they've had bad beef with Babylon going back for, and I'm not joking, 1,000 years. But Assyria just managed to stomp out Mittani and take a whole bunch of territory and money and stuff. And so Assyria's kind of like on the upswing, and they go, what if we took out the Babylonians? Anybody interested in rolling down the street to the Babylonian house and just like wrecking their world? Guess what happens? They roll down the street to Babylon and wreck their world. Now, here's what happens. The Assyrians and the Babylonians had been part of this like brother-sister sharing, we're going to marry our families together to be friends kind of thing, right? Well, it turns out that there was a rival faction trying to take over the kingdom in Babylon, and they killed the sister of the leader of Assyria. And that's like, you done messed up, Aaron. Now it's time to go. So here comes Ashur-urbulite. They roll down into Babylon. They sack the capital city of Babylon. They put their own guy in charge of Babylon. They basically deny Babylon its own independence, and they roll all of this big giant wad of money up to the north. And by the way, this happens real fast like. So Ashur-urbulite, in the span of his lifetime, took out Mittani and took out Babylon. I did say you done messed up, Aaron. You can't nerd out about Unicorn until I watch it. I will give it a shot, Arcadian. I promise. I'll give it a shot. Oh man, I'm missing so much. Zaku guy, yes. Throwing wallet at the screen, yes. Universal Age for life, responsibility. Gundam is good. Gotta watch it twice. Okay. Cool. Awesome. I'll watch it with Brittany. She's watched some Gundam stuff with me before. We watched Gundam Wing together and Endless Waltz. Wing is probably my favorite. It's got a special place in my heart because it was what hooked me to begin with. Good old-fashioned Toonami after school when I came home. Back in the day, Cartoon Network, represent. Hey, Crush Builds, what's going on? Let me give a shout out. Speaking of cool Gunpla guys and model lovers and also cool streamers, go check out Crush Builds. So, Cryomera pronounces your name Krush. I don't know if it's Crush or Krush or if I'm saying it wrong. Check this streamer out. Cool stuff. Share the love. Does a lot of like design stuff on stream. Also occasionally does Gundam stuff. So check it out. Cool. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Yup. Cryomera? Cyromera? Did I miss something? Maybe I didn't. I don't know. Okay, so the world has changed again, right? So we went from 5 big empires to 3 big empires in the span of one person's life. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, he's teasing you. Crush is mod in Cryomera's channel, by the way. So, there we go. Hydrate. When we have 3 big empires, you know that stuff is going to go down, right? Because the delicate balance that existed just 100 or just even 50 years ago is now like gone, right? So what you going to do? Well, this is going to be like real bad stuff time. And this is going to come under a new guy in Syria called AiH Nurari. Such another cool guy. AiH Nurari is actually one of the most violent of all Assyrian kings. This is AiH Nurari the first, by the way. The second and the third are also super violent. But this guy is legit violent. Mitanni, okay, let's go change the flag again. Right? Hey, Mimnor. He slays with the god tier dad jokes. Okay, so you're joking about slaying, but actually, let's go over here to our photos. Check this junk out. This is a bronze axe head, and this is in the Louvre, by the way. I should be wearing the adventure hat. So when we come back, I'll be wearing the adventure hat. So we actually find a lot of these because one of the things that AiH Nurari did was he decided to go like on the warpath, and we see crap tons of these really like nice looking bronze axes, but they have his name inscribed on them. So this is all cuneiform writing, by the way. He's got an axe to grind. Yeah, he really kind of does. One empire to rule them all. Yeah, pretty much. So that's the goal here. Let me pop up this one more picture. So this is our empire after the collapse of Mitanni. I got a little bit ahead of myself here and forgot to show this picture. So we've got Egypt down here. We've got the Hittite Empire over here. This guy over here called Ahiwaya is another word for the Mycenaeans. You can see here Mycenae, which is the old name for the city of Mycenae. Assyria right here, this would have been the kingdom of Babylon. Well, that doesn't exist anymore either because Assyria just ate it. So all of this at the time that we're talking about AiH Nurari would have been under the Assyrian control. So now you've got these kind of 3 big old powers and they're staring each other down. 'Tis but a flesh wound. Your bloody arm's off. No, it's not. Anyway, so I'm back. For those of you that might be new to the channel, anytime I show a picture of something that I've seen in real life or show a picture of a place that I've been to in real life, I wear the adventure hat. The adventure hat is one of my favorite things on Earth. It has been with me to 3 continents, 10 different countries, into the middle of the deserts, to the top of mountains, deep into the jungles. Oh yeah, the adventure hat. For those of you that can't tell, this isn't just me being super lit. I am white as a ghost. My whole family's heritage comes from Scandinavia and Ireland. I don't do the melanin thing. I burn, I turn 8 layers of red, I peel all of it off, and then I come back a white lizard. That's just what happens, right? So this is the adventure hat. I love it. So Joey the Saint has just hit 1,500 channel points. By the way, if you see the little picture down, oh, I guess it's down that corner. Yeah, down here. The channel points on my channel are called adventure points. And you can make me do a whole bunch of weird stuff. For 1,500 points, you can actually summon the adventure hat. And I will tell a fun little story of some adventure that I've had while wearing the adventure hat. Lizard people confirmed. Yep, that's it. Okay, so we've got 3 big empires now. And they're falling like flies. So here's what's going to happen. Egypt gets in a bad spot. And Egypt gets in a bad spot because of this guy named Akhenaten. And we talked about him a little bit before. He's a bit of a weird guy. He doesn't really follow the norms. He moves the capital city of Egypt out to the middle of a desert. He starts worshiping his dad in the form of a god. He really destabilizes the power of Egypt. And this is going to kind of sideline Egypt for a little while. And it's not a good time for Egypt to be sidelined because crap is going down. Right? White Lizard is his tribal name. Oh, man. Good times. Anyway, so the Hittites are going to take this opportunity to expand against Egypt. And this is a tricky move because, again, Egypt is like the big dude on the block. But right now, the big dude on the block kind of has like really bad ADD and father issues. And they're not really paying attention to a lot of their border cities. And the Hittites are like, we could do it. We could expand. And so the Hittites start expanding into Egyptian territory. And they do it real slow like. They kind of just cruise up to one little city. They bribe a whole bunch of people. They don't really fight a battle. And they just kind of get this city to flop sides. And they do this by offering them more money and really a lot better tax structure. Taxes, still used by rich people to get their way today. Anyway, and this is going to be a good time for the Hittites. We're still under Shupaluliyuma. Ooh, shots fired, for real. It's like people today and people back then are still people, and they still do things to get their way. And the people use money and manipulate the power of the rich people and leverage the blood and sweat of the poor. Real talk. Ooh, came here for history, got here with an economics lesson. Yeah, it happens. So the Egyptians are going to start poking around up here and figure out that the Hittites are messing with their vassals. Like, what you talking about my vassals for? What'd you say about my vassals? And what ends up happening is that the Hittites make a lot of ground. They take a lot of these cities along the border, and the Hittite Empire, which used to stop like right about here, is going to end up moving all the way down like right about here. And this is starting to get kind of into Egypt's back door. And this is not where Egypt wants. And then Akhenaten dies. And this causes huge problems because when a crazy dude that has absolutely warped the power structure gets out of power, there's a real big vacuum. And the crazy people who want to keep the crazy power structure have to fight against the same people that want to restore balance and sense to the world. And this is what's going on in Egypt. And it turns out that the Queen of Egypt actually writes a letter to the Hittite king Shupaluliyuma and goes, hey, look, for real, we never do the you send a male down here and we'll marry our daughters to your sons. We don't ever do that. But stuff is real right now. And if you send a prince down to Egypt, we will marry that joker to the queen and he'll be king of Egypt. And we'll just do the whole Pharaoh thing. But you got to keep us in power. So the leadership that used to be Akhenaten's family was fighting a war against the military in Egypt and against the religious infrastructure in Egypt. And they just wanted to keep power. So they were willing to sort of sell themselves out to the Hittites as long as they got to rule, right? So this is like orchestrating a power couple marriage. So this would have been like Brangelina of the past. Willow wins. Willow Owens, maybe? Thank you for the follow. So, here's the crazy thing. The Hittites are like, I don't know if this is legit. Are they just trying to, like, sneak in, kill my kid, and then, like, run away going, ha, 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 we killed your son? Did Akhenaten start the first known monotheism then? Okay, so there's a lot of argument about whether or not Akhenaten was a monotheist. I don't think he was a monotheist because he recognized that there were lots of other gods out there. He said that only one was important. That god was Aten, which is the solar disk, which is why he moved the capital city out to the middle of the desert so that they could watch the sun and like stare at it as it rose. No joke. He also sort of did this weird thing where his dad was kind of like synonymous with Aten. Akhenaten has a lot of daddy issues, right? But no, Akhenaten recognized that there were lots of other gods. So Anubis and Osiris and Set and Horus and all of the other Egyptian gods were still there. They just weren't important, right? So he didn't have one god purely. He just said only one was important. Great for the eye, staring at the sun. Yeah, what is it about crazy leaders in countries that do weird stuff and stare at the sun when they're not supposed to? Anyway. Oh yeah, Anubis and Osiris. Love all of the Egyptian mythology. If you want to go back to last Thursday's stream, we do some talk about Egyptians. But if you want to go way back in the VODs, oh goodness, I can't remember. The title of the episode is "We Are Building a Religion." We talk a lot about Egyptian mythology and how it's sort of as a type example of how governments use religion to get power, and that's a really good type example. So that's like 5 or 6, episode 5 or 6, or maybe it's 7. I can't remember. You can go check it out if you want to later on. Nice reference. I think so. Anyway, so I don't think Akhenaten was a monotheist. He recognized other gods, but he said only one of them is important. But when he dies, crap goes downhill. Egypt's in a bad spot. Lots of people grabbing for power. And Shupoluliuma is actually thinking like, man, I could take over Egypt and the Hittite Empire. We could make like super empire, right? This would be like the band Cream. We've got all of these great guitarists and drummers and bass players. And we're going to make one super group. Or no, I don't even want to say that because that's got... I'm going to refrain from referring to anything that involves Ted Nugent. So, you're welcome. Anyway, Shupoluliuma actually sends some spies down to Egypt to see like if this thing is on the level. Like, are they really asking for this? Because Egypt never asks for us to marry their daughters. Never. And the spies come back and they go, oh yeah, dude, Egypt is in jacked up trouble right now. They're having all these problems. Akhenaten's whacked off dead. All these people are arguing about stuff. If you send your kid down there, he for real will be able to run Egypt. And Shupoluliuma's like, okay, time to go. So he sends his son down. His son gets intercepted by the military faction that's trying to take over Egypt, and they kill him. Now that wasn't nice. And guess what's going to happen now between Egypt and the Hittites? It's time for some war. And it's not going to be a nice war. Yeah, rude. So Shupoluliuma is going to load up the Hittite Empire and go way south. And he expands almost down to the actual border of old-fashioned good old territory in Egypt down here. He gets to right about here, which is way further south than the Hittites had ever been before. But then some weird stuff happens and he has to turn around and go home because it turns out that in the middle of all this stuff, there's actually a gigantic epidemic of the plague. Just when you thought you were going to be able to take over the big old empire, you get down there, you figure out that they're plague-ridden, and guess what? The plague follows the Hittite army home, and for the next 50 years, the Hittites have to fight plague at home. Systems collapse, and epidemics go hand in hand. And I'm not trying to be super pessimistic about the future of the world, but things compare, right? So there's a bit of a pause, and this is right around the 13-20 year mark, where things kind of take a breath, because nobody wants to go mess with Egypt because there's plague there. And nobody really wants to go invade the Hittite world because there's plague there. You don't want to go invade the plague-ridden spot, right? You just let there be Krieg. Oh, man. Yeah. But all of this is going to change when Egyptian rulers change. And I got to put the hat back on, because we're going to talk a little bit about this guy. And I'm going to show you a picture of his statue that I took when I was in the Louvre in Paris. So let's go look at some photos. This guy right here. Boom. This guy is Ramesses II. You might know him as Ramses the Great. And I make a joke that in the ancient world, if you get to be called the Great, like Alexander the Great or Ramses the Great, you do one of two things. Number one, you kill a whole bunch of jokers. Or number two, you build a whole bunch of stuff. And it just so happens that Ramses did both. He killed crap tons of folk and built a whole bunch of stuff. This is a statue of him in the Louvre. You can go see it. He also is a super prolific builder. He built all kinds of stuff all over the place of the ancient world in Egypt. Temple of Abu Simbel, lots of humongous statues of this guy. This is what happens when Egypt sort of gets over the plague. The old kingdom, the old 18th dynasty went its way. The 19th kingdom was the 19th dynasty in Egypt was very, very short. Then you get Ramses II with the 20th dynasty. These guys are going to be kind of like the last big hurrah of Egyptian power. And this guy's going to be the leader of it. Leadership has also changed in the Hittite world to this guy. This guy's name is Muwatalli. Gotta love that. This is an engravement of him at, pardon me, one of the Hittite settlements in Turkey that I've been to. You don't see a whole bunch of this guy, mostly because the Hittites got hit by that plague and it hurt real bad. Real bad. So, things aren't going so great for the Hittite world. He looks like he's doing a fawn's like, hey! He's actually holding a religious idol and kind of like pointing at it. Like, look at how cool this god thing is. Like that. But maybe he was the ancient fawns. Who knows? So, Muwatalli, I should type these names, in case you're Googling along. So in Egypt we have Ramesses. Ramesses II and Muwatalli. So these are the new leaders of Egypt and the Hittites, respectively. The plague has kind of run its course, and now it's time for a reckoning, because they don't like each other still. Shuplu-Liuma embarrassed the crap out of Egypt. And now it's time for Ramses to make up for it. So Ramses decides, it's time to take it back. So all of that territory that the Hittites had taken from Egypt, Ramses is going to try to take back. And he loads up the big old army and starts moving north, and he has a lot of success. The Hittites, again, they got wrecked pretty bad by that whole plague thing. And the armies of these two big empires are going to meet at a sort of catastrophic a catastrophic battle at a place called Kadesh, which is in what is modern-day Syria. It's right about here. Right about here. So you've got the entire Hittite army versus the entire Egyptian army, and the battle goes on for days. Like literally days. The Hittites attack, and then the Egyptians counterattack, and the Hittites almost catch Ramses, but he and his bodyguard break free. The Egyptians get reinforcements from some of the people that they were liberating down through this region that used to be part of their empire that liked them better than the Hittites, so their numbers kind of swell. They run Muwatalli off to the city of Kadesh, where he kind of holds up in the big city behind the really big walls. The Egyptians are really stretched out thin with their supply lines, and they don't have enough gas in the tank to sort of sit out a big siege, so they have to start retreating, and then the Hittites come out and just harass them all the way back. This battle is enormous, and it's like this is like heavyweight stuff. This is the Tyson Frazier fight, where these guys just slugged the devil out of each other. They both look like mincemeat by the end of the battle. And nobody really knows who won. Now, of course, Muwatalli goes home and says, we just put a licking on the Hittites. Well, they are the Hittites, the Egyptians. And of course, Ramses goes home and says, we just put a licking on the Hittites. And neither side really won this. Egyptians were trying to get all the way up into the Hittite territory and sort of destroy them. The Hittites were able to hold on to a lot of the territory that they had taken away from the Egyptians. But what really is the larger result is that both of their armies get chunked to pieces. We're talking about losing tens of thousands of men on each side. These battles were enormous. And this is actually remembered in a really big scene carved into the temple walls at Abu Simbel. Now, this, as we see here, is Ramses. He is in his war chariot with his big old bow being pulled by these really cool horses. If you read the account that's written here on the wall, Ramses was surrounded and he single-handedly fought off half of the Hittite army because all of his generals were pansies and wouldn't show up to do the frickin' fighting when they were supposed to. Yeah, we all know that this is a joke. But Ramses wins the propaganda war. Now, there are actually two horses here. So there's one horse beside the other. There are also two archers. So the Egyptian war chariots were two-people chariots. Usually one person would drive and one person would do the shooting. But if you're on flat ground, you could sort of rein back your horses. If you see here, this rein was actually tied around this guy's waist. This would be the back dude. So many tangents, yeah. You call shotgun? You'd call longbow. You really wouldn't call shotgun. You need that pick as reference. Okay. So if you want to, that by the way is only just a piece of it. The entire mural is literally the size of the side of a temple. It's humongous, and it's got lots of different scenes. But if you Google Abu Simbel, you can find the entire thing. Really, really cool stuff. Lots and lots of really awesome imagery here. So Abu Simbel, and you might want to try like Abu Simbel Kadesh, because the temple itself is absolutely covered with art from lots of different eras of Egypt. So you might have to like do a couple of phrases in Google to get the right images out. And if you have problems, just let me know, and I'll do some Googling and send you a lot of stuff, either Facebook or Twitch or something like that. Yeah, no problem. Found it. Cool beans. All right. So this big battle at Kadesh is very important because the Hittites and the Egyptians are both whipped. They both claim victory. Neither side really won. And if we're being honest, both sides kind of lost. If we're just being honest about it. Because they're both super weak now. And if you'll remember, we have three big empires. We have the Egyptians and the Hittites, but we also have the good old-fashioned Assyrians. And what do you think the Assyrians are going to do when the Hittites and the Egyptians are both weak as junk? If your answer is capitalize and destroy one of them, you're correct. And that is going to lead us to another big battle between the Hittites and the Assyrians. Because the Hittites go home, they're in bad shape. They find a lot of these vassal kingdoms were rebelling against them. And Assyria goes, ooh, we can taste it. We can taste it. It's going to be great. We're going to go over there, beat the junk out of these dudes, and then it's going to just be us in Egypt, baby. Us in Egypt. So here we go. And there's going to be another big battle. And this is the Battle of Neria. I'm spelling this wrong, sorry. N-I-H-I-R. For those of you unfamiliar, tall, skinny letters play like this in my brain, and I can't type and talk at the same time. This is in 1237. By the way, Kadesh is in 1274, if you're keeping a running timeline. We're getting close to that 1200 mark. The Egyptians are going to have to go home and kind of collect their pieces. The Assyrians are going to attack the Hittites. and that Nahariya, it's going to go bad for the Hittites. Real bad. They're going to lose almost all of their remaining army. They're going to lose a ton of their territory. And the guy that's king of the Hittites at that point, a dude named, and it's going to be another one of these fun names, Tudaliya. This is technically Tudaliya the Fourth, if we're keeping track. Oh, do I hear 13th century? Do I hear the thundering hoofbeats from the steppe? Oh, no, not the 13th century AD, where the Mongols show up, because I know Galanuva is super excited about the Mongols. This is 1237 BC, so little bit of a time span. We're getting to the Mongols. I know we're getting there slowly. Don't forget, if you show up to the viewer request streams on Tuesdays, you can make your voice heard, and you can get Mongols to happen. You can vote for that next time, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I know I'm teasing you. We're in the BC period. We're Bronze Age. We're not even to the steel stuff. You were there on Tuesday, right? And we did leprosy, which is what we picked last time. So, come back Tuesday. We'll have another vote. Okay. Anyway, Tudaliya the Fourth. I should show you his picture real quick. It's another one of these good old-fashioned Hittite pictures where the dude's just kind of standing on the side of a wall. Boop. There we go. This is Tudaliya. This is at a big religious shrine called Yazili Kaya, which I've been to. It's right outside the Hittite capital city of Hattusis. I know everybody loves all these words, by the way. If you can only imagine all of the crazy words and junk that's floating around in my head right now, because I got to keep all this stuff straight. And we haven't even gotten over to China yet and talking about all those cool people, but that's where we're headed next. Tudaliya has a big problem. His army is way out. His territory is decimated. His vassals are rebelling. This dude barely hangs on. Like, the Hittite Empire almost completely collapses at this point. And then it's just like the Assyrians, a little bit of a crumbly Hittite Empire, and the Egyptians. And you think, oh, now it's time for the like super heavyweight showdown where you get the Egyptians and the Assyrians and they just go at each other's guts and tear each other to pieces, right? Well, this is where you'd be wrong. And that would seem like the next logical thing, right? Assyria and Egypt have been kind of taking out each other and the enemies around them like PUBG style. And now the circle is pretty small and the blue is everywhere. And they're the last two guys, and they're both down to just frying pans. And you think they're just going to go at each other and start beating the crap out of each other. But that's actually not what happens. Because out of nowhere, you get this invasion of people called Sea Peoples. Now that seems like a crazy name. What the heck are Sea Peoples? Underwear and frying pans for the win, right? And Spetsnaz helmets. Who are these Sea Peoples? Well, that's actually a great question. And it's one that we really don't have a good answer to, historically speaking. There are a lot of theories, though. So, if we look at what's happened in the world, and if we just look at from about 1350 to about 1250, who are the Sea Monkeys? Those are the Atlantis knockoff versions of the Beatles. Purely designed for TV. I hope somebody got that reference. Anyway, so where do they come from? That would be Sea Monkeys. Oh, I apologize for my lack of one letter being off. You caught the joke clearly, so don't be hating. Anyway, if we look at the world and we do 100 years apart, we look at 1350 to, well, I guess it's a little bit more than 100 years apart. It's about 120 years apart. In 120 years, we have gone from super high levels of society, crazy levels of technology for the time, international trade, multilateral peace treaties between big empires, brothers being swapped around to marry daughters of your other brother. This sort of super cosmopolitan world. And if you just fast forward 120 years, we have no Mitanni at all. Babylon is a vassal state and barely exists. The Hittites only really exist because they're still holding their capital city. Egypt is in bad shape, and Assyria looks like it's beating the junk out of everybody. But this is going to have an effect on the region around them, right? So what about those people that were the Mycenaeans and the Minoans? We talked about them in the past. These people that live over here in the Greek world. They were thriving because of their proximity to this larger area. This northern region of Africa over here, which is in the modern-day country of Libya, was thriving because of its proximity to this larger cosmopolitan world. This region over here in Persia was thriving because of its proximity to this big, gigantic cosmopolitan world. And this means that populations are going up, living styles are going up, the desire for cool stuff is going up, and then what happens when you destroy the cosmopolitan world that people live in? And what ends up happening is, instead of Mad Max, running around with, the V8 shiny and chrome, you end up with people getting into boats and turning into Mad Max Sea version. And these are the Sea Peoples. They are the remnants of the Mycenaeans and the Minoans, the cities that had been sacked on the borders between the Hittites and the Egyptians multiple times, people that had been displaced, traders that could no longer make a living because there was no more international trade. Witness me! This is crazy stuff. Then this is where the Sea Peoples come from. And what they want is money and to make a living, right? I've missed some stuff here in the chat. A simple brain can't figure out. Egypt was rich, nice place to live, and had a big army. Why would they even need to confront the Hittites? Pride. Shupalululiuma had embarrassed them, and they needed to go get their ego back. So yeah, ego. Anyone in South Park episode, C men plus C people equals society. And see, that's another one. Like I've seen a few episodes of South Park, but I haven't watched a lot of it. I live, I die, I live again, right? Well, if you imagine, instead of like big parades of monster trucks and dudes playing fire-breathing guitars, you have a whole bunch of people in boats with a dude playing a lyre, and they just roll up on your city, pour out, raid and wreck everything, steal everything that isn't nailed down, and then load back up on the boat and sail off into the distance. That's what the Sea Peoples are. And they wreck everything. They get over into the Hittite world, and they invade this region of the Hittite world called Kilikia, which is this southern part over here of Turkey. And that's basically the end of the Hittites. The last of the Hittites is this king named Shupalululiuma II, and he gets completely overwhelmed. When he loses this last little bit of territory, all of the people around him basically smell blood in the water and just devour the rest of the Hittites. So all of these little people, like the Phrygians and the Kaskians and the Sea Peoples, they just devour the Hittite Empire, and it doesn't exist anymore. The same thing happens down here in the Assyrian world, because these Sea Peoples are going to burn all of these big cities right here in this region, and they're going to wreck all of those big trade cities that the Assyrians were making so much money again. Shupalululiuma. The S in ASMR stands for Shupalululiuma. I love it. I love it. Anyway, so these Sea Peoples wreck the Hittite world, and the Hittites are gone. They force the Assyrians back into Assyria, and then the only big dude left is the Egyptians. And so then they decide, all right, well, let's go raid Egypt. And there's actually a really big, another one of these really cool images. I know you're just seeing black right now. This is a gigantic wall mural, very similar to the one at Abu Simbel. But this is at a place called Medinet Habu, and I'll type this in just a second if you want to look at this. But here we see Ramses the Third, not the second, and he's fighting all of these people coming off of these boats. So look, you see right here. I can zoom in a little bit. I don't know if that's coming through, but you see a big boat right here, and all of these people just like fighting off the boats and on the shorelines. Yeah, Legolas is working overtime. It's been knife work up here on the walls for me. So you have this giant battle between the Egyptians and the Sea Peoples, and it looks like the Egyptians are able to hold them off. But this is like the last kind of big go for the Egyptians, because they don't really have a lot of army left. They had all of these big fights. They had all these problems going on within their own territory, and things are getting bad down in Egypt. I forgot to show you a map. I have a map here. Hold on a second. Oh, come on now, images. Did I zoom out all the way? Don't be a jerk. Here we go. All right, so this is the invasion of the Sea People, right? So you see here, they're getting into the Hittite world, and they're wrecking that. The Assyrians get pushed back over here into Assyria. Look at all these little flames. This is not like dropping new hot singles that are blowing up and on fire. This is, they burned all these friggin' cities. So all of these giant, big, powerful trade cities that had been making so much money get straight wrecked by the Sea People. And this big battle right here, 1175, is probably the battle that we looked at. The one that was on Medinet Habu. And I also need to type that for those of you that might be interested in looking up those images. Get over here. So this is the picture of the big battle between the Egyptians and the Sea Peoples. So what's left? We just had 5 humongous, powerful empires. What's left? The Hittites, they're gone. Now, there are some people that claim that they're the Hittites. They're not the Hittites. Sea people, probably Vikings. No, they're probably much more Semitic and Indo-European than the Vikings were. And they're also separated by probably about 2,000 years of history. Similar to the Vikings, though, in that they rolled up from the shoreline, beat you to death, stole your stuff, and then rode back away. Can I load this without myself crashing? Oh, Vikings on the moon. That's a good one. So the Hittites, once one of the Club of Great Powers, gone. Mitanni, gone. The last little part of Mitanni, the last little bit of the Hurrians that had any sort of power, end up being governors under Assyria. But even them, they're not having so great. The Mycenaeans, gone. Babylon, gone. Now, Assyria is still around. But Assyria is not the big dog anymore. They are beset on all sides by enemies. They're having trouble with their own ruling family members. There's a civil war that breaks out between one part of the family and the other part of the family to try to take over. They're barely able to hold on to what they have. Egypt, well, they're still hanging around there too, but they're fighting over scraps. The big kind of remnants of the military power that was there after Akhenaten's death and the remnants of the religious power that were there are fighting with the pharaohs. The pharaohs are having to appease all of these sort of noble powers within their own government. And by 1050 BC, even the 20th dynasty is gone. So to kind of put this all in a neat little basket, in the span of about 200 years, the world in the Bronze Age went from the height of technological power that they had at the time that the world had ever seen and fell to Dark Ages. I forgot, by the way, to get my box O artifacts. So I'm going to throw up the break sign real quick. I'll be right back because I've actually got some show and tell that I can kind of drive this home with. By the way, for those of you that are have never seen the break sign before, my favorite picture is the one that's in the very center of the break sign. It is a picture of me sitting on a Roman toilet at the ancient city of Philippi, which I thought was the best break picture ever. So I'll be right back. It'll take me like maybe a minute. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. And I will once again be donning the adventure hat. So I do a lot of traveling, and I've been to a lot of places in the ancient world, and I have some pretty neat little relic stuff. But where does the poo go when they flush? Interestingly, there is a channel that runs under that would have washed the water out. The better question is, what did they use to wipe with? And the answer is a sponge on a stick. Boom. Fun fact about the sponge on a stick. They were reused. And as you walked into the toilet, there would be a little bucket with some water in it and a sponge on a stick in it. And you would take the sponge on the stick and you would kind of just like get yourself clean, and then dunk that junk back. And the really big, fancy toilets in the Roman world were like 14 seaters, and everybody would just go sit around and use the bathroom together. Isn't that how everybody else does it? Okay, so I'm going to dunk the junk, right? I'm going to show you some pieces of pottery. To remind everybody, the historical relics that I have are effectively worthless. These are not things that would be in a museum. I have brought all of them through customs. I am not a tomb robber, nor am I a black market relic smuggler. These things really are effectively worthless, except for teaching patterns and use in examples. And this is why I really like this stuff. Family dump, similar to Family Dinner 5. Yeah, okay. So last summer, one of our mods, Mac in the Lab Coat, and I went to Greece. And we spent some time hanging around in some of the Mycenaean cities. And I brought a couple of broken pieces of pottery back to serve as an example. So this guy right here, let me see if I can get the white balance right. All right, so this is a piece of a Mycenaean pot. If you note here on the side, it is even thickness all the way through, which means that it was made on a pottery wheel. It's got a very nice glaze on it. You can even see kind of a sheen from that glaze. It's got a very nice double-banded dark brown pattern here. This would have been part of a vase that would be about yay tall, probably used for holding kind of everyday stuff in your house. So this comes from a period of time at the height of the Bronze Age, so probably right around the 1300 year mark. All right, so really nice, very fine piece of pottery. The inside is smooth again, and you can see if you get really, really close, you can actually see some of the lines from the pottery wheel. Let me see if I can. Yeah, you can kind of see them down here at the bottom. You see like the little grooves where they use the pottery wheel on the inside to smooth all this stuff out. All right, so again, this piece of pottery, by the way, to kind of put it in comparison with us, is about 3,300 years old. Okay, so, and this chunk of pottery is from the same region, and it's 600 years younger. So normally when we see things, technology progresses, right? It gets better as we go. This piece of pottery is 6 centuries younger than the thing that I just showed you. And if you look here on the side, you can tell that it's kind of chunky. This is made by making loops out of clay and kind of mushing them together. The material that it's used is very non-standard. It's got little pieces of grain and grit and gunk in it, meaning that the material that the clay that they used wasn't pure. It had lots of issues. It's also burned. The surface here is not really flat. It's got a chunky piece of it that's kind of like bent off here to the side. The thickness isn't uniform, because again, what we're working on here is these sort of like making snakes out of Play-Doh and then turning them into a pot. But this is younger than this. And the question is, how? And the answer is, this is what happens when society collapses at the end of the Bronze Age. People that could have made something like this don't exist anymore. The metropolitan lifestyle of these people living in cities of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people, that simply does not exist. Especially in Greece, we don't find buildings being made for about the next 600 years. We don't find documents being written. If you go to Turkey, there's not a central authority there again for another 700 years. Because when society collapsed at the end of the Bronze Age, it took all the cool stuff with it. Right? So, you watch your post-apocalyptic movies, and the guy that can make bullets is like the dude that's the most important thing ever. This is 200 years after that guy's dead. This is 500 years after that guy's dead. Imagine right now if no more books were published and electricity and everybody that knew how to run electricity died. What would our world look like in 700 years? Well, this is what the ancient world looked like between the height of the Bronze Age and the Dark Age that followed it. It's systemic collapse. It is reset almost back to zero. People lose the ability to read. Literacy rates go, and literacy rates were low. We're talking maybe 15%, but they go back down to 2 or 3%. It's bad stuff. And this is the kind of crazy stuff that happens when systems collapse. The cool stuff that you had goes away. And people have to relearn how to do stuff. And there are roving bands of marauders that show up to steal what little bit of cool stuff is left. And for about 500 years between the end of the Bronze Age and the rise of the Iron Age, everybody is in just bad shape. And it gets pretty grim. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But that's where we want to stop tonight. The warning that nothing is permanent, that nothing is guaranteed to last, that even the greatest societies are 1 or 2 bad domino falls away from collapsing. Now, I know that seems perhaps alarmist, and that seems like I'm being maybe a little bit pessimistic. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is to keep the stuff that we have to work for it. Right? And here's the hope. Systems have collapsed before, but we're still here. Right? The collapse of the Bronze Age was not the end of human civilization. Civilization rebuilt itself, and it put itself back together, and it got better over time. And if we recognize that systems like this can collapse because of the actions of a few greedy people, we can stop that kind of crap from happening. But it takes all of us being aware of the fallibility of governments and systems and interconnections like this. And you have to work to keep this stuff going, right? So it's not just a guaranteed thing. Gestures at everything, points at 2020. I've missed some chat. You feel like you're watching Antiques Roadshow? Yeah. I'm sorry, the shard's only worth $5. It's probably not even worth that. So you're saying young men go out to kill young men who don't know each other for the old men who know each other far too well. They still haven't figured out how they made the terracotta army. If you're talking about the one that's in Qin Shi Huang's tomb, we do pretty much know how they made that one. We'll talk about the Qin dynasty later on in China. I like them a lot. And that we could live on Saturn by now without war. I don't know if we could live on Saturn. The gravity there is way too big, and it would squish us pretty much like a pancake if we got close to the surface of Saturn. Plus, the surface of Saturn is gaseous. Only the core is solid. You don't want to get into the atmosphere of Saturn. You can't breathe it. And also, aforementioned gravity, that would mush you. Actually, war is the one guaranteed way to do technological advances. Ooh, peace stagnates innovation. Ooh, but the collapse. Ooh, tell me. Ooh, Saturn is whooshy. It is. The new improved civilizations are built on the bones of the old. That is accurate. But the point that I'm trying to make is we don't have to cut everything down to the bone to build the new society. We can just take the pieces that we have now and try to do better with what we have. Because we are all still human, right? Let's remember, we are way more in common than we are different. And when people point at the differences, we should be pointing at the similarities. That's the point of learning history. Because those people are the same as we are. This all started because Tushratta got mad because his country was broke and he sold off his sister to try to get some money from the Egyptians. And then we end up with systems collapse. I watched a documentary where the ceramicists talking about how much time and how many people it would take to make it and still can't figure it out for... Oh, yeah. I mean, like, the sheer aspect of how it was physically made and produced in the lifespan of one person, that is crazy. The techniques we understand. But that's not our way. But what about the few of us that want to Mad Max it? Cryo, bless you. I don't think I could live in the Mad Max world. I would go like bloodthirsty warlord probably overnight. I'm so, like, pent up Viking angry rage in me that society is pretty much the only thing keeping me from going like full out Thunderdome on some people. I highly disagree. Space race, yes, there was a Cold War, but not an active time of war. But the war that it was pushing made the missile technology that got us to space. And the missile technology that we got were from kidnapped Germans that we liberated in World War II. So it's all connected. Shane Unleashed, 2 decades and it's here. Cryomera. Cyberpunk 2077 is contemporary. Goes to join Shane's tribe. You are all welcome in my tribe. In post-apocalyptic wasteland world, I'm the guy that knows how to put civilization back together. I'm also the guy that might kill you. Car tires burning, heavy rain, and 50 years of darkness. Oh yeah, 2 decades. You'll barter out my sarcastic humor in the apocalyptic wasteland. You turn into an ancient jester. Or I guess an apocalyptic jester, rather. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the sort of the end of my presentation discussion for tonight. I would love to take any sort of questions that you have about this information, questions that you might have in general about history. You're a medieval reenactor, you could totally help you out. I know lots about sword stuff. Yep. We're talking about technopunk dispositions. I'd argue we're closer in time to Deus Ex. Oh, yeah, maybe. Nanomachines. You'll be your singular Mongol army of one. You'll need to steal a horse, though. Oh, man. I really do appreciate you all. I love doing this, not just because I get to ramble about stuff and people seem to enjoy it a little bit, but the back and forth. It for real, it hits me in the too size, too small heart that I have, right? Are we now comparing post-apocalyptic survival skills? I know how to make pottery and eat things I find. I'm there with you. Okay, fun little story. I know a guy that is building like a fallout bunker, and he used to joke with all of us that we had to earn our way into the bunker. He wasn't just going to let us come into the bunker because, kicks and giggles. We had to earn our way into the bunker. And I kept trying to earn my way in, and I never got there. Then I started working on my master's, and I had to learn Latin so that I could read the Latin. That was the Roman legal code. And as soon as I learned Latin and he figured out about it, he's like, you have earned your way into the bunker. And I'm like, how? And he's like, now you can do all the exorcisms in case we're in like end of the world revelation scenario and demons start possessing everybody. So there we go. I'm in the bunker. Angry Chihuahua of Doom. Pottery blew my mind. 600 years apart. Yeah, and see, that's what happens. Like, systemic collapse was like... Just tag some buildings for doodling and get thrown in cyber jail. There we go. There we go. Peterson can draw comics. Yup. Cleric? Why would demons speak Latin? No. The official Catholic liturgy for exorcism is done in Latin. So, there we go. Alrighty. Anybody want to redeem adventure points? Please go ahead and do so. I'm going to check to see if there's anybody around to raid. Time for a raid. David will be carving spears. Let's slip the puppy of war. All right, I had to call the puppy. Let me mute the mic real quick, and then I'll call the puppy. Oh, here comes the puppy. Haley, come here. Oh, she has the chicken. Come here. Hey, come here. I might have to bribe her with the chicken. Come here. Come on. Oh, there's the puppy. Oh, yes, this is Kaylee. Oh, thank you for the sugars. Sorry about that. I don't know how I muted twice. I guess I double tapped. Which is another good post-apocalyptic tip. Double tap. Okay, let's see who's around. You saw the chicken do it. Oh, okay. The chicken actually does, like, it hates me. That's actually Chicken Mark II, by the way. She destroyed the other one. And by the way, the joke here is, let's slip the puppy of war. And I know people are like, how could that little puppy be the puppy of war? I don't know if you can see here on my neck, but I've got some some claw marks because she likes to fight, but like play fight. You know, she'll like, but she's got these giant mutant feet because she's a boxer, and she'll just like whack you and just like. So there you go. There we go. All right, so we do have some raid options. We can raid Steve Sketches. We have raided him before. He is currently working on what looks like to be some sort of swashbuckling pirate kind of dude doing some art. Or we can raid Cave Geek, who is once again working on... Ooh, what is this? He's working on some sort of large map, and I can't see what it is. Let me see if I can get a better idea. Oh, this is... he's currently working on the Breath of the Wild map. So I will let you all decide where you want to go. We can go to Steve Sketches. We can do Cave Geek. I'm up for suggestion. Thanks for the history adventures. Oh, where'd you get the Baby Yoda emote? Kashe art. Interesting. Do Gunpla stream. I'll have to get another... Okay, so I'd have to do a couple of things. Number one, I'd have to get another webcam. to do like a downward facing cam for models. Number 2, I would have to get another model. That would not be outside of my world, though. I would actually probably quite enjoy that. But, all right. So thanks, everybody. Anybody, by the way, anybody have an opinion? Steve Sketches, Cave Geek, up to me. Anybody have an opinion? Do whatever. I will do whatever. Alrighty. It looks like Cave Geek might actually be on a break. So let's raid Steve. Let us prepare our battle cry. Our battle cry is adventure with lots of exclamation marks. If you want, you can redeem some channel points if you don't have it already and get yourself the adventure hat emote. Throw some of those in there. Last call for adventure point redemptions. Anybody? Okay. Thank you all very seriously. Thanks for the host, all of our follows, everybody that came out, very much appreciated. Be kind to each other. Remember that we're all citizens of the earth. We're so much more alike than we are different. And people in the past are pretty much just like we are. We just have fancier stuff, right? So I will see you all next time. We're going to go raid Steve. I'm going to hit the button. I'm going to close down and do the outro screen for just a few seconds, and then we'll head off on our raid. Thank you all very much. See you all next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central for viewer request episode. Much love. Oh, Warm Gazpacho. No, I'm not going to blow somebody before the raid, but I tell you what I can do. I can ban you. Deuces. Aw, trolls. All right, ladies and gents, and everybody else, signing off. Have a great night. Much love. Peace, love, all that fun stuff. Last second band hammer. Outro on that.